Alrighty, good morning everybody. It is Thursday, October 14th, 2021, and we're going to get started here with our pre-market analysis on the S&P 500 futures market. What I want to do real quickly here is just mention, how much I love our eye levels here. Just want to mention the low of the day yesterday. We hit to the tick. It broke it by one tick to our eye level and then bounced out of there. And then the high of the day, I think it was either right at it or within a few ticks and pulled back. And you can see this other eye level we had right here, really good resistance midday. And then towards the end of the day, nice bounce off of it, a breakthrough, and then a bounce right off of it again, and then a push into the Globex session. So really awesome stuff there. And let's go ahead and jump up to our ultra high time frames and take a look at what's going on in the market this morning. Our quarterly and our monthly, we spent a lot of time back on Monday since it had been a long time since we did our pre-market session. So we kind of covered everything that we saw here on these ultra high time frames. And then on the weekly, we did discuss the fact that there is a trend lower on RVI, but a trend higher on the lows on price. So there is a little bit of an argument there for bullishness. And then we had a really clear bullish divergence off the October 1st low that we've been talking about all week. When we get down to our daily, that October 12th bullish divergence that we were using for a little bit of a bullish bias going into Wednesday, at least helping a little bit. Remember, it was somewhat mixed going into yesterday's market, but that bullish divergence we got there is carrying through, and you can see the low was again just below 43.19, and now we're almost up to 4,400, almost a 80-point push so far from that signal that we got coming into the yesterday's market. Outside of that, on this daily chart, I do not see any signs of exhaustion on the current push right now. Had the RVI pushed up significantly higher here, I could say that we are starting to get some bearishness, but everything looks hunky-dory. We have the bullish divergence back from October 1st that had agreement on the weekly chart, and now continuation, and I guess arguably the continuation of bullishness on the weekly chart as well. So nice agreement there on those two higher time frames. And when we get down to our 4-hour, that's where we have a little bit of an exhaustion pattern showing up here. Now remember, when we're in a bullish push, it's not out of the realm of possibility to get these exhaustion patterns and have very shallow pullbacks. And then on these higher time frames, remember, there's a lot of time for this to develop. So even though you're seeing a potential bearish divergence on the 4-hour right now, we do have another 45 minutes. This guy could still continue to chug and could potentially end up breaking. Remember, our daily, the time frame right above that, does not show any signs of bearishness. But we do see it here on the 4-hour. And then from the lower end, we do have the bullish divergence, from the overnight low that we're seeing here. And then also from those previous bullish divergences we saw back on the higher time frames. So right now, a little bit of a potential bearishness on this current push, but we do have a really nice bullish divergence off the lows, agreeing with that daily and weekly time frame with the bullish divergence from October 12th. Going down to the 1-hour chart here, we did draw in this kind of pennant pattern or triangle, if you will, and we are coming right to the top end of it. But remember, on our shorter time frames, and we're going to get down to it, we drew in an actual trend channel, and it'll be interesting to look at that when we jump down there. But right now, just looking at from the highs all the way back at the beginning of September, which I believe were the all-time highs on this new contract, coming all the way down, we are kind of sitting right at the top end of that channel right there. So for whatever that's worth, we got that. Outside of that, the 60-minute, also remember, agreement on the bullishness back on the 12th, which and then back on the 1st. And right now, I think you could kind of argue for a bearishness on the 60-minute. However, you got that signal all the way back here. So it started at just around 6 o'clock on the Pacific yesterday, and you got that bearish signal. and then they continue to chug through. You got another bearish signal. They continue to chug through. So I'm a little skeptical of what we're seeing here. And right now, not necessarily any type of local pretty divergence. In fact, if you just look in the local area right here, there's no argument for a divergence. If you want to extrapolate all the way back to the swing high back here, you could argue that price did come down a little bit so far, but the RVI did come up. But I don't necessarily like that, as you guys know. So I would really like to see something right in this area showing me a very clear bearish pattern, and I don't see it. So let's go down to our intermediate time frames just to see if we're getting agreement with what we're seeing up top. And the 30-minute right here, we did have the bullish signal back on October 12th, bringing us into, well, that was what gave us a bullish bias going into the market on the morning of October 12th. But then you can see things went sideways here. Now, as we continue to push, again, I would argue right now, no signs of exhaustion on the 30-minute either. So we really only saw a clear bearish signal on the 4-hour, and then every other time frame does not agree with it. So I think you guys are getting the gist of what we're seeing here. One time frame with a bearish signal up top, and arguably all the other time frames from all the way at the higher end all the way down to our intermediate time frame here, we're not really seeing that. So it's looking like a pretty bullish morning. And when we jump down to this 10-minute, you'll see this trend channel that we drew in. And I showed everybody, I really like to draw these channels by connecting the two major lows, which was back here on October 10th going into the 11th, and then down here on, what is that, the morning going into October 12th. Connected those two major lows back yesterday, so we didn't have all this going on. And then we just went ahead, copied this line, and moved it up to the high, the major high above us. And so you could see this trend channel, and I even said there's a possibility we could break outside of this trend channel, pull back, bounce off of it, and then continue going. Well, they did sneak up above it just after the open yesterday. If you guys remember, we did have like a bearish signal right at it and a pullback, and then it launched right above it, kind of probably faking some people out to jump in long here off the back end around 52, maybe off the previous highs here, 53. But it went ahead and sold off. But eventually, by the end of the day, we pushed up, we pulled back, and we did bounce just a point or two below the trend channel there, and then bounced off the top end of it. And look at this push that we've got throughout the Globex session. And we're going to talk a lot about the hidden divergences this morning during our training session today, our Thursday study session at 9. There are a lot, even here on a 10-minute chart, you can see if you just took a hidden divergence here at 12 o'clock yesterday Pacific, and then you took another trade here around 7 p.m. Pacific, and then if you were up somewhere around, what is that, 10, 9 o'clock Pacific, if you took these are all hidden divergences, and you can see nothing ever came back. But we're going to focus on that in the study session. I'm not going to waste too much time here for the pre-market, and I think that kind of wraps things up here for our YouTube audience. We do have more of a bullish bias only because we don't really have a lot of bearish signals off of the current highs. In fact, I forgot to go into the 10-minute here and look what we're seeing, but you can see we keep getting the exhaustion patterns as the market pushes, and you do get a little pullback, so an opportunity for maybe a scalp, but then the market continues to go, and that's what we see here on the 10-minute. Now things did come up. We got another little exhaustion pattern right at the top here, and that has led to a little bit of a pullback. But remember, things are looking strong, so we want to look for longs off of pullbacks here, and that's kind of what we're going to go with right now. Remember that within an instant or a few moments, the market could completely change, and you have to be ready to change your hats when you get new information. So for now, that's where we're at. Things could change if the situation and what we see on the charts changes. So have a great rest of your day, guys, and we'll see you tomorrow.